The Gift of Abunuel, A Tale of Christmas by C.T. Pilcrow. I still recall the night it began, like it was only yesterday. From my palace observatory, I watched the heavens the way a jeweler studies a gem, patient, exacting, certain that a small, new light might change everything. Our scribes had marked the prophecies for generations. The charts and tablets spoke of a star that would announce a king whose reign would reach beyond earth. When at last that light flared and steadied, it was as if the whole world took a single, holy breath. My name is Abunuel. I have been called many things since: wise man, traveler, fool. But in that hour, I was simply a scholar who had seen the sign, and like the others who had read the same lines and tasted the same hope, rose to meet it. We packed carefully, gold in its chest, spices and frankincense wrapped against the dust, maps rolled and tied, lanterns and camels readied for a long road. My companions joked to keep the nights awake. What use is all our learning if it does not lead us to a wonder? Yet beneath the jokes, there was a hush. Each of us felt the gravity of what we sought. The journey took its measure from the desert. Days melted into star-bright nights before again becoming cold mornings. We crossed dunes that changed their shapes while we slept, and oases that tasted like mercy. When at last the stable of straw and newborn light lay before us, I felt as if I had arrived at the place the world had been leaning toward all along. He lay there small and unscarred, and all the formalities of kingship, the gold, the incense, the spice, felt simple when laid at his feet. I remember bending, opening my chest, and offering those smooth, heavy coins to the infant. My heart surprised me. It filled, not with pride, but with a sudden, sharp joy, the kind that makes a man laugh in the middle of a crowd or shed tears at a garden gate. The gift I had carried across deserts was small beside the presence I beheld, and yet offering it, placing something of myself into another's life, made me feel inexplicably, wonderfully full. For days and weeks afterward, that night lived in me like an eternal illumination. I could no more forget that small hand than I could the first star that had called me. Returning to my city, wrapped again in scholar's robes and considered ways, I found my gaze turning to children's faces, for in each of them I saw a reflection of the child's face. Despite their innocence and promise, there was also much suffering in those small faces. Enduring life in our city was no simple undertaking for these little ones. My thoughts went to the gift I had given, and a question burned in my soul. Could I recapture, perhaps even spread, the joy of that night by again giving a gift to a child? I set about to try. There was an ease in giving that I had not anticipated. A widow's basket filled at dawn with food for her little ones. A tiny carved figure tucked into a poor child's blanket. A tutor paid to teach an eager boy who otherwise could not read. Each act was an echo of that first offering at the manger. At first my giving was private. I liked the secrecy, to leave a parcel at a door in the night, to watch a child find a simple gift and see a light dawn in his face. Then those small private rejoicings multiplied. Was I not, after all, a wealthy man, rich in learning and material resources? Could I not afford to expand my efforts? Soon I collected craftsmen and seamstresses, carpenters and tinkers, and I set up a workroom, a low-walled place smelling of varnish and spice. We carved, stitched, and wrapped. At first we served the narrow corners of our city. Then merchants carried our small comforts farther. Each gift I gave seemed to call for another, as if joy itself multiplied whenever shared. But the world does not always understand the impulses of the heart. The name of the child I loved, spoken softly under my breath, spoken at secret prayer, was a dangerous sound in lands where other traditions held sway. I know now, with the bluntness of long memory, that faith can be a light that warms some hands and scorches others. Men who had once nodded at my counsel as a scholar began to look through my robes as if I wore deceit beneath them. I was called imprudent, then dangerous. The tone of whispers hardened to shouts. Stones and threats followed, and once, at dusk, when I was setting a parcel upon a poor woman's windowsill, men came with the law in their eyes. I had heard the child himself fled for safety, and now I was forced to do the same. I left before a winter that might have been my last. In the still of the night, my band of faithful servants prepared my provisions, and in perfect silence we stole away. I was destined for a place where we could work without fear or interruption. But before I left the land that had raised me, there burned a single compulsion stronger than fear. I had to see the child once more. Jerusalem had not forgotten me, and neither had I forgotten it. I returned by a crooked route under stars that had seen my first steps toward the manger. He was no longer the helpless infant of my memory. The man whom I sought received me with a look that read like mercy itself. I sat at the edge of a small courtyard and spoke with the blunt honesty of a man who has seen both perfect love and human cruelty. "Lord," I said, and my voice trembled, though my hand lay steady on my knee. "Since the night I was led to you, I have not ceased to give gifts to children, and I have found such joy in giving. You know better than any the darkness that often overshadows the happiness of the little ones. I have grown old in my giving. My beard is now long and gray. Yet, if it were possible, I would never cease my glorious undertaking. Tales of your works have blown across the desert, how you heal the sick, cure disease, and even raise the dead. There is another story, too, whispered in the dark of night, of a request made to thee by one of thy beloved disciples, to remain on the earth forever serving thy good name. Fault me not now, my master, for coming before thee with a bold request. If it is your will, might I likewise remain, beyond the span of a single life, to give, to remind, to bring small comforts where sorrow is great. Let me be an old man who keeps giving until you return." He listened as any good friend listens when a friend confesses what is true, but beyond hope. I cannot tell the world how the divine chooses the shape of mercy. I can only tell what passed between us. A steadiness in his eyes, a quiet that settled in the marrow of my bones. I left Jerusalem with a blessing like a rich cloak across my shoulders and a long road before me. Northward I went, into emptier and colder places where the night seemed to sharpen the breath into crystal. I remember the first winter there, a barren land, the kind of cold that strips words to their meaning. I do not linger on those first bitter years. In time, my devoted servants helped me tame the barren land. We built homes and workshops, a masterful village where peace and joy reigned all year, and hands and hearts were busy with the work of preparing gifts. What has become of our humble beginnings in that northern land is now a story known by many. It tells of a man with a white beard who delivered gifts across fields of snow, who travels through the sky like a star, venturing unseen in the night. Let that be the common telling, I will say only this. The work I had begun, giving from what I had, making joy from simple things, deepened into a labor that did not know weariness. My workshop became a place where old hands found new purpose, and where children's laughter became the measure by which we judged our days. Through it all, I carried the sense that my first small act, kneeling and placing my gift before a newborn king, had taught me the true work of living. Christ's life, his presence in the world, was the model. A giving that did not tally debts, a kindness offered without advertisement, a love that took the shape of an infant baby, and a perfect offering. To give was to remember that the greatest gifts are never merely things, but the extension of one heart to another. Now I wait between the stars and the small hands I still see in my dreams. I give because I was taught by a child's light. I endure because I asked to endure. If men call me by different names, if songs have folded my story into the rhyme of winter, it matters little. The gift is older than anyone telling. I have seen the world change its garments 12 times, but each year I still set a parcel in the hands of a dreaming child and remember the manger, the coin, the startling joy that first made a stranger into a giver. When at last the sky shall break and he comes again, I will set down my tools and say that I kept my pledge. Until then, I will keep giving, and in each small gift there will be the echo of that first bright night, an answer to the simple, hopeful prayer of a wise man who traveled to visit a babe in a manger.